match that door. So this is February 6th, and we're going to have a hearing on Senate Bill 64, and then we're going to take, if we have time, take action and work Senate Bill 32 that we heard yesterday. So, are we ready? Just give people a chance here to get seated. Welcome, everyone. Okay, Senate Bill 64. Eileen, would you like to give us a briefing on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Senate Bill 64 adjusts certain internal KPERS statutory references. It extends the time for filing administrative appeals and updates certain provisions relating to compliance with the Federal Internal Revenue Code. Senate Bill 64 amends KSA 74-4902, 74-4904, and 74-49, 123. Section 1 amends KSA 74-4902, which is the definition section for KPERS statute. The bill updates several internal references. If you're looking at the bill, first on page 2 and line 2, the internal reference has been updated from subsection 33 to 32 pertaining to trusts. And next on page 5 in lines 23 and 28, the references have been updated from 34 to 33, and that pertains to salary and points to the correct subsection. Section 2 amends KSA 74-4904 pertaining to actions taken by and against the system. Subsection 2 lengthens the time frame for any person aggrieved by any order or decision of the board made without a hearing to make a written request to the board for a hearing. And it takes that time frame from 30 days and lengthens it to 60 days after notice of the order. Section 3 amends KSA 74-49, 123 pertaining to the application of certain IRS codes to the KPERS system. In subsection 3, the amendment in lines 22 through 27 cleans up, and get this, it's an error that was made by the government in establishing the required minimum distribution age for an individual that was born in 1959. They had it as 72, I think, and 75 for somebody born in 59. So we cleaned that up. Our senior KPERS drafters said that it's because the federal drafters aren't as good as the state drafter in this case. The amendment made in lines 36 and 37 states that a member's life expectancy may not be recalculated except under section 401A9 of the Federal Internal Revenue Code. Again, that pertains to required minimum distributions. The amendment on page 11 in paragraph H, lines 18 through 21, states that distributions from a defined contribution or deferred compensation plan are required to be made in accordance with the rules under, again, section 401A9 of the Federal Code. And the final amendment to the statute appears on page 17 in lines 19 through 22 and reflects an amendment in federal law through the PATH Act in 2015. And finally, as always, we've cleaned up the bill to bring it to current drafting standards. And with that, Madam Chair, I can stand for questions.
Committee questions of Eileen? Anybody? Senator Fagg?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Eileen, thank you for your presentation. When we talk about cleaning up the federal law, do we try to match federal law on this stuff?
We have to comply with
We have to comply?
especially with.
Was there any changes that's come up, or is this just so complicated that we've caught this stuff to clean up?
I think that's a question for the conferees, but sometimes it takes a little bit of time to percolate down to the state. And in one case, I think, was a minor type amendment that David was sitting on until we amended the statute again because, you know, it just needed to be cleaned up. The system itself complies with federal law.
Thank you.
Any other questions, committee? Eileen? Okay. Thank you. Sorry, our first conferee, Alan Conroy, welcome. Haven't seen you in a while. Executive Director of KPERS.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Certainly glad to be here. And of course, as always, Eileen's done a great job. And of course, being try to be observant. Certainly always agree with what the reviser says, and certainly her comment that state revisers are way better than federal revisers. I would certainly agree with that. The bill today is the only official bill that the Board of Trustees has requested of the legislature this year. And as Eileen pointed out, there's administrative appeals extensions, some federal compliance updates, and then just some technical adjustments. Perhaps the one policy point would be the administrative appeals extension. Right now, if CAPERS make some determination, whether it's a disability decision, whether it's a benefit decision, maybe working after retirement, maybe a benefit calculation decision, of course, those members certainly have the right, and by statute, they can appeal that administrative decision. And of course, we use the Office of Administrative Hearings then, third party outside of CAPERS then, that here's the information and makes the determination. And of course, if either side disagrees with that determination, it can always go to district court. But most of it certainly on the CAPERS side, generally we always go with whatever the final decision is by the administrative judge. Currently right now in statute, if a person wants to appeal an administrative decision, they only have 30 days to do it. Most of these appeals are on the disability side, probably at least 3/4, and we don't get a large number, but maybe 10 to 15 in the course of a year total. But most of them, the majority of them, are disability determination appeals. And so, certainly the people who make that appeal, and again, it's their right, they're maybe in a pretty difficult situation because they're on disability. Sometimes, a lot of times, they will represent themselves, so they're trying, and they don't hire outside counsel, and again, they can do that, but when they go to the administrative law judge hearing, they're representing themselves. And of course, we help them gathering sharing medical records and all those kinds of things with them for that. But it just seems like, in our experience, we found that 30-day window for some people who are in a difficult situation to begin with, trying to do they want to appeal it or not? The clock sometimes runs out on them, and they aren't able to make, maybe they decided, well, I do want to appeal, but now maybe it's 45 days later, and currently the statute doesn't permit that. So we thought, just really out of maybe fairness to these people that want to appeal, and again, it's their right, just to increase that statutory limitation from 30 days to 60 days, and that would give them a little more time to decide if they want to go the appeal route or not. The other points, as Eileen mentioned, the federal compliance updates, again, clearly the CAPERS system enjoys advantages from the IRS in terms, if we're compliant, then certain tax advantages, particularly for our members, and so we always want to stay compliant with those. It seems like the IRS, if there's some federal changes, usually we try to sort of update those, so every 3 to 5 years, where our IRS compliance statutes on the Kansas books are up to date with the federal ones, and they give states a little flexibility on that. And so again, those changes are really like with the Federal Secure 2.0 Act and some other changes, that simple that PATH Act of 2015 and so forth. But we just try to again make sure our IRS compliance statutes are up to date with the federal ones, and then there was just some technical amendments. So perhaps the biggest policy decision would be increasing that appeal window from 30 days to 60 days. And again, this is a request of the board of trustees, and request your favorable recommendation should you so decide.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Director Conroy? I'll go with Senator Fagin and Senator Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Alan, thank you for your presentation. Administrative appeals, Can you just give me a rough estimate of how many you get of those a year?
It varies, but it'd probably be in that maybe 10 to 12 a year, and probably, I'd guess probably 9 of them are disability related.
Thank you.
Senator Albright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I probably, excuse me, have gone right over that, but when does that the 60 days, when does that start? Is that your notification from your office? When does that start? Thank you.
I believe so. Once they get determination that their appeal has, or that their request for, let's say, the notice that maybe they're going to be, that their disability benefits are going to end, and they get that official notice, then that's when the clock starts.
Committee, any other questions for Director Conroy? Oh, Senator Gossage?
Not necessarily for him, it's more for Eileen, I think. On page 10, I see your smile. Grimace of pain. That's what I meant to say. So we've crossed out the age 72, which has typically been you must start receiving your IRA funds or other funds that have to do with retirement. And then now it's this big convoluted section here, and I'm trying to understand, and don't take convoluted as a negative. It's just a lot. So we've got 70 and a half if you were born before July 1 of 1949, age 72, born after. And why are we doing all that? Is that to comply with the federal regulations?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think specifically in this section was trying to correct that federal error on the required minimum distribution age for individuals born in 1959. The rest of it just kind of cleaned up the different ages that were sprinkled in that paragraph, and rather than trying to have the different ages all over the place, we had the defined age. We used the phrase applicable age and then just spelled it out in that section to refer to the correct ages and the correct years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions for the director? All right. Well, I don't have any. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony. We don't have any opponents. We don't have any neutral testimony. So we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 64, and that looks like a reasonably simple bill. So committee, thank you. We will now, you've got a folder, or hopefully you've still got the folder on Senate Bill 32 that we heard yesterday. We want to work that bill today. So Eileen, would you want to brief us? Even though it was only yesterday, we've had many things going on. Would you brief us on Senate Bill 32?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 32 is the bill that would reduce the insurance company premium tax rate from 2% to 1.98%. And it would also discontinue the remittance that the department makes of the 1% of taxes received, and would discontinues that credit to the Insurance Department Service Regulation Fund.
Thank you. Committee, do you have any questions of Eileen? If not, I would ask what the committee's pleasure is on this bill. Want to make a motion, Senator Warren?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the bill brief and all, and appreciated the testimony on this. I would move that the committee pass out Senate Bill 32 favorably for passage, and because it's of a non-controversial nature, put it on the consent calendar.
We can certainly give it a try. Yes. Do I have a second? Senator Francisco seconds. Does anybody have any discussion? And the motion is to put it on the consent agenda. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That will move forward. Thank you so much. That is all our work for today, but I want to remind you of what we have next week, and I just put my paper away. We are not meeting tomorrow. We will meet on Monday. We will work Senate Bill 121, in case you want to take a look at that in advance, and we will we'll hear 121. Did I say work? I'm sorry. Hear 121, and then we will likely work a bill or two every day. So, and we do not plan on meeting next Friday unless we have run out of time, because next week and Monday will be our last committee days. So, thank you. Have a good weekend. See you on Monday.